As from the very beginning, God's plan for humanity has been deeply rooted in love. Love is not just an emotion, but the very essence of God's nature. When He created humanity, it was not out of necessity, but out of an overflowing love that desired relationship. The Bible tells us in 1 John 4:8, God is love. This means that everything He does, every act of creation, every command, every moment of grace is an expression of His infinite love. When we look at the creation story, we see that humanity was made in the image of God, set apart from all other creatures. Unlike animals or nature, humans were given the ability to think, to feel deeply, and to make choices. This was not accidental. God created us to love Him back, to experience the joy of His presence, and to reflect His love to others. But love requires freedom. If love were forced, it would not be real. This is why God gave humanity free will, the ability to choose Him or reject Him. Unfortunately, sin entered the world through disobedience, and with it came separation from God. Yet, even in that moment of rebellion, God's love did not waver. Instead of abandoning humanity, He began a plan of redemption to bring us back into His embrace. Throughout history, God continued to show His love by guiding His people, sending prophets to call them back, and making covenants that revealed His faithfulness. But the greatest demonstration of love came through Jesus Christ. John 3:16 captures this perfectly. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him should not perish, but have everlasting life. This verse is the heartbeat of God's plan. His love is not distant or conditional, but sacrificial and eternal. Jesus came not only to teach and heal, but ultimately to lay down His life. His death on the cross was the ultimate act of love, taking upon Himself the punishment of sin so that humanity could be restored to God. God's love does not stop at salvation. His plan is to continually walk with us, to transform us, and to shape us into His like. Love is the foundation of everything He commands. When Jesus was asked about the greatest commandment, He responded, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. This means that love is both vertical between us and God and horizontal between us and others. A life lived in alignment with God's plan is a life defined by love, where we not only receive His love, but also extend it to those around us. In a world filled with division, pain, and selfishness, God's plan remains unchanged, that humanity would know His love and share it. Love is the antidote to hate, the healing balm for the broken, and the guiding light in times of darkness. When we live according to God's love, we become reflections of Him, kind, forgiving, patient, and full of grace. We no longer live for ourselves, but for a higher calling, impacting lives and drawing others closer to Him. The greatest fulfillment in life is not found in wealth, status, or achievements, but in walking in God's love. No matter how far someone has strayed, God's love is always reaching out, calling them home. His plan is not one of condemnation, but of restoration, always inviting humanity into something greater, in eternal relationship with Him. In conclusion, God's plan for humanity is built on love. From creation to salvation and beyond, His desire has always been for us to know Him, experience His love, and share it with the world. If we truly understand and embrace this, it transforms the way we live, leading us into a life of purpose, joy, and peace. The invitation is open to all. God's love is waiting. The question is, will we accept it and walk in His plan? God's plan for humanity is filled with purpose and meaning. Every person on this earth has a divine reason for existence, and no one is here by accident. From the very beginning, God designed each individual with a specific calling in mind, a role to play in His grand design. This is not just about personal success or achievements, but about fulfilling a deeper mission that aligns with His will. Jeremiah 29:11 declares, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope." This verse reminds us that God has already mapped out our lives, and though we may not always understand His ways, we can trust that He's leading us towards something good. Purpose is not just about what we do, but about who we become. Many people spend their lives searching for meaning in careers, relationships, or material possessions, only to find themselves empty. The reason is that true fulfillment is found in aligning with God's purpose. When we surrender our own desires and seek His will, we step into a life of divine significance. Our gifts, talents, and even our struggles are all part of the unique journey He has prepared for us. Some are called to lead, some to serve, some to teach, and some to heal, but every role is equally important in God's kingdom. The key is to seek Him first, allowing Him to guide our steps and reveal the path He has set before us. Alongside purpose, God's plan for humanity is one of compassion and service. He did not create us to live selfishly, focused only on our own needs and desires. Instead, He calls us to love and serve one another, just as He demonstrated through Jesus Christ. In Matthew 25:40, Jesus says, "Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." This means that every act of kindness, every moment of generosity, and every effort to help those in need is a direct service to God. True greatness in His eyes is not found in power or wealth, but in humility and love for others. Serving others is not just an option, but a commandment. But the commandment, Jesus Himself set the ultimate example when He washed the feet of His disciples, showing that leadership is about serving, not being served. He healed the sick, fed the hungry, and comforted the brokenhearted, not because He had to, but because love demands action. In the same way, we are called to be His hands and feet in the world. This does not always mean grand gestures. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness, a word of encouragement, a helping hand, a listening ear can make the biggest difference. When we live a life of purpose and service, we not only fulfill God's plan, but also experience true joy and peace. The world teaches that happiness comes from achieving personal goals and accumulating wealth, but God's truth reveals that fulfillment comes from giving, from pouring into the lives of others. It is in serving that we find purpose, and in purpose that we find joy. In conclusion, God's plan for humanity is built on purpose and service. Every person has a divine calling, a role in His greater plan, and a unique way to contribute to the world. But purpose is not just about self-fulfillment. It is about serving others with love and compassion. When we embrace this truth, we live not for ourselves, but for something far greater. The greatest legacy is not in what we achieve, but in the lives we touch. God's plan is clear. Live with purpose, serve with love, and walk in His divine calling. In doing so, we not only glorify Him, but also experience the fullness of life He intended for us. As God's plan for humanity is rooted in love, redemption, and purpose, from the beginning of time, His desire has been for us to walk in communion with Him, experiencing the fullness of life He intended. However, humanity has often strayed from this divine path, seeking fulfillment in temporary things. Despite this, God's love remains constant, offering us a way back to Him. His plan is not one of confusion or uncertainty, but of clarity, hope, and eternal significance. Love is the foundation of everything God does. He created humanity out of love, not necessity, and desires a personal relationship with each person. Love is not just something God gives, it is who He is. The Bible states in 1 John 4:8, whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. This means that every action, every promise, and every plan He has for us is built upon His perfect love. Even when people turn away from Him, He patiently calls them back. He does not force Himself upon anyone, but extends an open invitation to walk in His grace. His love is unconditional, not based on our achievements or failures, but on His unchanging nature. The greatest proof of this love is found in Jesus Christ, who sacrificed Himself so that all may have eternal life. It is through understanding and accepting this love that humanity can truly grasp the depth of God's plan. Redemption is at the heart of God's plan. From the moment sin entered the world, separating humanity from Him, God set in motion a way for restoration. He did not leave people in their brokenness, but provided a path to salvation through Jesus. The sacrifice of Christ on the cross was not just a historical event, but a divine exchange. Our sins for His righteousness, our guilt for His grace. Through Him, all are given the opportunity to be reconciled with God, no matter their past. Redemption is not just about forgiveness, but about transformation. It is a call to leave behind old ways and embrace a new life led by the Spirit of God. True redemption changes hearts, renews minds, and restores hope. It shifts the focus from self-centered desires to God-centered purpose. The beauty of redemption is that it is available to all who seek it. No one is beyond the reach of God's grace. And His plan is always to bring people back to Him. Purpose is the natural result of love and redemption. God did not create humanity without direction. Each person has a unique calling, a specific role in His greater plan. Life is not random or meaningless. Every talent, experience, and challenge is woven into a divine purpose. When people walk in alignment with God's will, they find true fulfillment. Many search for purpose in success, relationships, or material possessions. But these things eventually fade. Lasting purpose is found in serving God and others. Jesus Himself demonstrated this by living a life of humility and service, showing that greatness in the kingdom of God is measured by love and sacrifice. When people understand that their lives are meant to reflect God's glory, their actions become more intentional. They no longer live for temporary gains, but for eternal impact. Purpose gives meaning to suffering, direction to decisions, and peace in uncertainty. It allows individuals to rise above circumstances, knowing they are part of something greater than themselves. God's plan for humanity is clear: love, redemption, and purpose. He desires for all to experience His love, accept His redemption, and walk in their God-given calling. This plan is not just for a select few, but for everyone willing to embrace it. When people surrender to His will, they find true joy, peace, and fulfillment. Life is not meant to be lived in confusion or emptiness, but in the fullness of His grace. The invitation remains open to all to receive His love, to walk in His redemption, and to live with divine purpose. God's plan for humanity is one of love, redemption, purpose, and service. From the very beginning, He designed humanity not just to exist, but to thrive in a relationship with Him and with one another. His plan is not one of chaos or uncertainty, but of order and divine intention. Every person is created with meaning, every life holds value, and every soul is invited into His grace, though the world is often filled with pain and confusion. God's purpose remains unshaken, calling humanity back to his perfect will. Love is the foundation of everything God does. He did not create humanity out of necessity, but out of an overflowing love that seeks connection. His love is unconditional, not based on performance or perfection, but on his own unchanging nature. This love is seen in the way he provides, protects, and patiently calls people to himself, even when they turn away. The ultimate display of this love was through Jesus Christ, who willingly gave his life so that humanity could be reconciled with God. Love is not just something God gives, it is who he is. When people embrace this truth, they begin to see themselves and others through his eyes, fostering compassion, kindness, and unity. Love is not meant to be hoarded but shared, creating a ripple effect that transforms families, communities, and the world. Redemption is at the heart of God's plan. Humanity, by its own choices, has often walked away from God's original design, leading to brokenness, suffering, and separation. Yet, God never abandoned his creation. Instead, he provided a way for restoration through Jesus. His sacrifice was not just about forgiveness, but about offering a new life free from the chains of sin and guilt. Redemption means more than being saved. It means being transformed. It is an invitation to leave behind past mistakes, fears, and failures and step into a renewed identity as a child of God. No matter how lost someone may feel, redemption is always within reach. God's plan has never been to condemn, but to restore, and his grace is always greater than any human weakness. Purpose is another key part of God's design. No life is an accident, and every person has a unique role in his greater plan. People often search for meaning in temporary things, success, relationships, or possessions. But true purpose is found in aligning with God's will. He has given each individual specific talents, passions, and experiences to use for his glory. Walking in purpose brings fulfillment and peace, even in difficult seasons. Challenges and struggles are not meaningless. They shape character and prepare people for the calling God has placed on their lives. When people understand that their lives have divine significance, they stop chasing fleeting desires and start living with eternal impact. Purpose gives direction, strength, and a deeper sense of joy that cannot be found anywhere else. Service is a natural response to understanding God's plan. Jesus set the ultimate example by living a life of humility, teaching that true greatness comes through serving others. God's plan is not just about personal blessings, but about being a blessing to others. When people serve with love and compassion, they reflect God's heart to the world. Service is not limited to grand gestures. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness, a word of encouragement, a helping hand, or a listening ear can change someone's life. True service is selfless, done not for recognition, but out of a genuine desire to reflect God's love. When people live with a servant's heart, they become instruments of God's plan, bringing hope, healing, and transformation wherever they go. God's plan for humanity is unchanging. Love, redemption, purpose, and service. These are not separate ideas, but interconnected parts of his divine design. Love calls people into relationship with him and one another. Redemption restores what was lost. Purpose gives life meaning, and service allows that purpose to be fulfilled. When people embrace this plan, they step into a life of deeper fulfillment, joy, and peace. The invitation remains open to all to receive his love, walk in redemption, discover purpose, and serve with a heart that reflects his grace. As God's plan for humanity is built on love, redemption, purpose, service, and faith. From the moment of creation, he designed humanity not for meaningless existence, but for a life of fulfillment and eternal significance. His plan is not bound by human limitations or changing circumstances. It is eternal and unshakable. Though the world is often filled with pain, uncertainty, and confusion, God's purpose remains steadfast. He desires that all people experience His love, receive His redemption, walk in their divine purpose, serve others, and live by faith. When individuals align with His plan, they find peace, joy, and a deeper connection with Him. Love is the foundation of everything. God's love is not based on human effort or perfection. It is unconditional and unchanging. It was love that led Him to create humanity, and it is love that continues to sustain them. He does not love people because they are deserving, but because love is His very nature. The greatest demonstration of this love was through Jesus Christ, who gave His life as a sacrifice for all. This love is not meant to be kept to oneself, but shared with others. When people embrace God's love, they begin to see themselves and those around them differently, leading to compassion, kindness, and unity. Love is not just an emotion, but an action, a choice to reflect God's character in daily life. Redemption is at the heart of God's plan. Humanity in its brokenness has often turned away from Him, choosing sin and selfishness over righteousness. But God never abandoned His creation. Instead, He provided a way for restoration through Jesus. His sacrifice was not just about forgiveness, but about offering a new life, free from guilt and shame. Redemption is an invitation to transformation, a call to leave behind old ways and step into a renewed identity as a child of God. It means no mistake is too great, no failure too deep, that God's grace cannot restore. His plan has never been to condemn, but to redeem, bringing people back into a relationship with Him. Purpose is an essential part of God's design. No one is born without a reason. Every life has meaning in His plan. People often search for purpose in careers, relationships, or success, only to find these things unfulfilling. True purpose is found in God, who has given each person unique gifts, talents, and experiences to be used for His glory. Living in purpose brings fulfillment and peace. Even in times of struggle, every challenge faced is not meaningless, but a preparation for something greater. Understanding this truth allows people to move beyond temporary desires and live with eternal impact. When individuals align with God's purpose, they find direction, strength, and a joy that nothing else can provide. Service is a natural response to knowing God's plan. Jesus lived a life of humility, teaching that true greatness comes through serving others. God's plan is not just about receiving blessings, but about being a blessing. Service is not limited to large acts. Even small gestures, an encouraging word, a helping hand, or a kind action can change someone's life. True service is done selflessly, not for recognition, but out of love for God and others. When people serve with humility and compassion, they reflect God's heart and become instruments of His grace. Service is a key part of a meaningful life, allowing individuals to participate in God's greater mission. Faith is essential in walking according to God's plan. His ways are often beyond human understanding, and His timing does not always align with human expectations. Faith means trusting Him even when the path is unclear, believing in His goodness even in difficult times. The Bible teaches that faith is the confidence in what is hoped for and assurance in what is unseen. Without faith, it is impossible to fully embrace God's plan. Faith allows people to persevere, to move forward despite obstacles, and to experience the peace that comes from knowing God is in control. It is through faith that people see miracles, witness transformation, and grow closer to Him. God's plan for humanity is clear: love, redemption, purpose, service, and faith. Each of these elements is deeply connected, forming a complete picture of His divine will. Love draws people to Him, redemption restores them, purpose gives them direction, service allows them to make a difference, and faith keeps them steadfast. When individuals embrace this plan, they step into a life of true fulfillment, joy, and peace. The invitation remains open to all to accept His love, walk in redemption, live with purpose, serve others, and trust Him fully. Those who do will experience the fullness of life that God has always intended. God's plan for humanity is built on love, redemption, purpose, service, faith, and obedience. Faith and obedience. From the very beginning, He designed people not to live aimlessly, but to walk in divine purpose, experiencing the fullness of life He intended. His plan is not random or uncertain, but is carefully woven into every person's existence. Despite the struggles and challenges of the world, God's purpose remains unshaken. He calls all to experience His love, receive His redemption, live with purpose, serve others, trust in faith, and walk in obedience. When people align with His plan, they find lasting peace, fulfillment, and a deeper connection with Him. Love is the foundation of God's plan. His love is not conditional or dependent on human actions. It is constant and unfailing. It was love that led Him to create humanity, and it is love that continues to sustain them. The greatest expression of this love was through Jesus Christ, who sacrificed Himself so that all could be restored to God. Love is not only something to be received, but something to be shared. When people understand and embrace God's love, they begin to love others selflessly. Love transforms hearts, heals wounds, and creates unity. It is the essence of God's character and the first step in understanding His divine plan. Redemption is at the heart of God's purpose. Humanity has often turned away from Him, choosing their own ways over His. But even in disobedience, God's desire has always been to restore, not to destroy. Through Jesus, He made redemption available to all. This is not just about forgiveness, but about transformation. Redemption brings a new identity, freeing people from guilt, shame, and sin. It allows them to step into the life God intended, no longer bound by past mistakes. No one is beyond God's grace. And His plan has always been to bring people back to Him, offering them a fresh start and a new purpose. Purpose is essential in God's plan. Every person has a role in His greater design. Life is not a series of random events. Every experience, challenge, and talent has meaning. While people often seek fulfillment in temporary things, careers, relationships, or material wealth, true purpose is found in living according to God's will. He has given each person unique gifts and abilities to be used for His glory. When people walk in purpose, they experience peace and fulfillment that the world cannot offer. Understanding this truth allows them to live with intention, knowing they are part of something greater than themselves. Service is a natural response to understanding God's plan. Jesus, the ultimate example, lived a life of humility and service, teaching that true greatness comes from serving others. God's plan is not about personal success alone, but about making a difference in the lives of others. Service does not have to be extravagant. Even small acts of kindness, a word of encouragement, a helping hand, or a compassionate heart can change lives. True service is done selflessly without expecting anything in return. When people serve with love and humility, they reflect God's heart, becoming instruments of His grace and bringing light to the world. Faith is necessary to walk in God's plan. His ways are often beyond human understanding, and His timing does not always align with human expectations. Faith means trusting Him even when circumstances seem uncertain. The Bible teaches that faith is confidence in what is hoped for and assurance in what is unseen. Without faith, it is impossible to fully embrace God's plan. Faith allows people to persevere through difficulties, knowing that God is in control. It brings peace, strength and the ability to move forward even when the future is unclear. Through faith, people witness miracles, experience transformation, and grow closer to God. Obedience is the final key to fulfilling God's plan. It is not enough to know God's will, it must be followed. Obedience means surrendering personal desires and trusting that God's way is best. Throughout history, those who followed God's commands experienced His blessings and guidance. Obedience is not about following rules, but about a relationship with God, choosing to trust Him even when it is difficult. True obedience comes from love, not fear. When people obey God's word, they align themselves with His perfect plan, experiencing the joy and peace that come from living according to His will. God's plan for humanity is clear: love, redemption, purpose, service, faith, and obedience. These elements are deeply connected, forming the foundation of His divine design. Love draws people to Him. Redemption restores them. Purpose gives them direction. Service allows them to impact others. Faith strengthens their walk. And obedience keeps them aligned with His will. When people embrace this plan, they step into a life of true fulfillment, peace, and joy. The invitation remains open to all to accept His love, walk in redemption, live with purpose, serve others, trust in faith, and follow in obedience. Those who do will experience the fullness of life that God has always intended. As God's plan for humanity is centered on love, redemption, purpose, service, faith, obedience, and hope, from the beginning He created people not to live in confusion or despair, but to walk in a life filled with meaning and eternal significance. His plan is not subject to human limitations, nor is it shaken by the challenges of the world. Despite hardships, suffering, and uncertainty, God's purpose remains firm, calling all to experience His love, embrace His redemption, live with purpose, serve others, trust in faith, walk in obedience, and hold on to hope. When people align with His divine plan, they discover peace, fulfillment, and a lasting relationship with Him. Love is the foundation of everything in God's plan. His love is not based on human effort or achievements, but is unconditional and everlasting. The Bible states that God is love, meaning His very nature is to love. He created humanity out of love and desires a deep personal relationship with each person. This love was most powerfully demonstrated through Jesus Christ, who sacrificed Himself so that all might be restored to God. Love is not just something to receive, but something to share. When people truly understand God's love, they begin to reflect it in their relationships, fostering kindness, compassion, and unity. Love transforms individuals and communities, drawing people closer to God and one another. Redemption is at the heart of God's plan. Humanity, through sin and disobedience, has often strayed from His original design, yet God's response has never been rejection but restoration. Through Jesus, He offers redemption to all, no matter their past. Redemption is not just about being forgiven, it is about transformation, stepping out of guilt and shame and into a new identity as a child of God. It means that no one is beyond His grace. His plan has always been to heal, renew, and bring people back into relationship with Him. Accepting redemption allows individuals to live in freedom, unburdened by their mistakes. Purpose is an essential part of God's design. No person is created without meaning. Each life holds significance in His greater plan. While people often seek fulfillment in success, relationships, or material wealth, true purpose is found in living according to God's will. He has given each person unique gifts and talents to be used for His glory. When people embrace their divine purpose, they experience a deep sense of fulfillment and joy that nothing else can provide. Challenges and struggles are not meaningless. They are opportunities for growth and preparation for something greater. Purpose gives direction, motivation, and peace even in difficult times. Service is a natural response to understanding God's plan. Jesus, the ultimate example of humility, lived a life dedicated to serving others. He taught that true greatness comes not from status, but from selfless acts of love and kindness. God's plan is not just about receiving blessings, but about being a blessing to others. Service does not have to be grand or public. Small acts of kindness, a word of encouragement, or helping those in need can make a profound impact. True service comes from a heart that desires to reflect God's love, and when people serve others, they become instruments of His grace in the world. Faith is necessary to walk in God's plan. His ways are often beyond human understanding, and His timing does not always match human expectations. Faith means trusting Him even when the path is unclear. The Bible teaches that faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Without faith, it is impossible to fully embrace God's plan. Faith allows people to persevere, move forward despite challenges, and experience the peace that comes from knowing God is in control. Through faith, people see miracles, witness transformation, and develop a deeper relationship with Him. Obedience is key to fulfilling God's plan. It is not enough to know His will. Obedience is not about strict rule following, but about a relationship built on trust. It means surrendering personal desires and choosing God's way even when it is difficult. Throughout history, those who obeyed God's commands experienced His blessings and guidance. Obedience leads to wisdom, peace, and protection. When people choose to follow God's path, they align themselves with His perfect plan, stepping into a life of purpose and fulfillment. Hope is the final key to understanding God's plan. Life is filled with challenges, pain, and uncertainty, but hope keeps people anchored in God's promises. Hope is not just wishful thinking, it is the confident expectation of God's faithfulness. He promises never to leave nor forsake His people, and His plan is ultimately one of victory. Hope gives people strength to endure trials, courage to keep going, and joy in knowing that God's promises will be fulfilled. It reminds people that no matter how dark the situation, light is ahead. With hope, they can face the future with confidence and peace. God's plan for humanity is built on love, redemption, purpose, service, faith, obedience, and hope. These elements are deeply connected, forming the foundation of His divine design. Love draws people to Him. Redemption restores them. Purpose gives them direction. Service allows them to make a difference. Faith strengthens their journey. Obedience keeps them aligned with His will, and hope sustains them through life's trials. When people embrace this plan, they step into a life of true fulfillment, peace, and joy. The invitation remains open to all to accept His love, walk in redemption, live with purpose, serve others, trust in faith, follow in obedience, and hold on to hope. Those who do will experience the fullness of life that God has always intended.